Have you ever worked for someone who took credit for everything you did right but blamed you for everything that went wrong? Someone who smiled at you in meetings but threw you under the bus the moment things got tough? Well, let me tell you about my former boss Lori, and how her desperation to look good almost burned down everything, literally. My name is Jacqueline, and for 3 years, I ran the warehouse operations at Coastal Wholesale Distribution. When I say ran, I don't mean I had the fancy title or the corner office. Lori had those. But I was the one who made sure 50,000 square feet of inventory moved like clockwork, day after day. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., I'd arrive to find yesterday's manifest waiting on my desk. While Lori was still hitting snooze, I was already walking the aisles, checking that overnight deliveries were properly sorted and that my team of 12 had everything they needed for the day ahead. Marcus, our forklift operator, always greeted me with coffee and updates on any equipment issues. Rosa handled receiving and could spot damaged goods from across the warehouse. Then there was Tommy, barely 19 but sharp as a tack, who managed our computer inventory system like he'd invented it himself. By 6 a.m., I'd have the day's picking routes optimized, problem orders flagged, and safety briefings prepared. When Lori strolled in at 9:30 with her designer coffee, she'd find detailed reports on her desk showing exactly how many orders we'd already processed, which suppliers were running late, and what our efficiency numbers looked like. She'd skim through them during her first meeting of the day, then present the information to upper management as if she'd personally overseen every operation. But here's what Lori never understood about warehouse work: it's not just about moving boxes from point A to point B. It's about understanding the rhythm of the place, knowing your people, and most importantly, keeping everyone safe. Our warehouse wasn't just toilet paper and kitchen gadgets. We stored everything from household cleaners to automotive supplies, and this time of year, early December, we had an entire wing dedicated to fireworks and holiday pyrotechnics. I'd spent months creating safety protocols that Lori had never bothered to read. Color-coded storage zones to separate incompatible materials. Temperature monitoring systems for heat-sensitive items. Mandatory safety walks every 2 hours through the fireworks section. My team knew these procedures by heart because I'd trained them personally, walking them through every scenario I could imagine. Why do we check the temperature logs twice a shift instead of once? I'd ask during training. Because if those fireworks get too hot, we're not just losing inventory, Rosa would answer. We're losing the whole building. And why do we never stack boxes higher than the red line in Section C? Sprinkler coverage, Tommy would chime in. Stack too high, and if there's a fire, the water can't reach it. This wasn't theoretical for us. 2 years ago, a warehouse across town had gone up in flames during peak season because someone had stored Roman candles next to space heaters. 13 people went to the hospital. The company never recovered. So when I walked through our facility each morning, I wasn't just checking boxes off a list. I was making sure everyone went home safe. I was protecting our livelihoods, our customers' orders, and honestly, the entire neighborhood around us. But to Lori, safety protocols were just another bureaucratic hassle that slowed down productivity. She'd roll her eyes during safety meetings and make jokes about me being overly cautious. When corporate sent down new regulations, she'd hand them to me with a sigh and say, "Just make sure we're compliant enough to pass inspection." The irony was that my overly cautious approach made us the most efficient warehouse in the company. When you're not dealing with accidents, injuries, or inventory damage, you can focus on moving product. Our picking accuracy was 99.7%. Our on-time shipping rate was 98.3%. Customer complaints about damaged goods were virtually non-existent. And every month, when corporate celebrated our numbers in their newsletter, there was Lori's photo with a quote about maintaining excellence through strong leadership and attention to detail. She'd forward these newsletters to the whole team with messages like, "Great work, everyone," as if she'd been out there with us, checking temperature gauges and training new hires. But the praise never trickled down to where it belonged. Corporate knew Lori's name, not mine. They knew her management philosophy, not the actual systems keeping everything running. When efficiency experts visited from headquarters, Lori would walk them around, explaining her color coding system and her inventory rotation procedures, while I followed silently behind, making sure they didn't ask any technical questions she couldn't answer. My team saw through it, of course. Marcus would shake his head when Lori took visiting executives on tours, pointing out safety features she'd never bothered to understand. That woman couldn't find the fire extinguisher if the place was burning down, he'd mutter. Rosa was more direct. You know she's going to take credit for all of this when review time comes, right? She'd say, gesturing at our perfectly organized receiving area. You should be the one getting promoted, not sitting here explaining your own work to her. But I believed that good work spoke for itself. I thought that eventually, the right people would notice who was really running the show. I kept detailed records of everything: safety improvements, efficiency gains, cost savings from reduced waste. I figured that when promotion opportunities came up, Lori would do the right thing and recommend me. I was so naive. The problem with being indispensable behind the scenes is that you become invisible to the people who matter. Corporate saw our department as Lori's operation. When things went well, Lori got the credit. And when things went wrong, well, I was about to learn how that worked too. It started on December 18th, exactly 1 week before Christmas. We were in the middle of our busiest season, processing triple our normal volume. Online orders were pouring in, retail customers were demanding last-minute deliveries, and our fireworks section was packed to capacity with New Year's inventory. That morning, I arrived to find Tommy looking worried at his computer terminal. Jackie, we've got a problem with the climate control in Section C, he said. The temperature's been climbing all night. We're at 78 degrees and rising. Section C was our fireworks storage. Anything above 75 degrees for an extended period could start causing problems with the more sensitive items. At 85 degrees, we'd be looking at real danger. I immediately called our maintenance contractor, but they couldn't get someone out until the afternoon. In the meantime, I made the decision to move our most temperature-sensitive inventory to a cooler section of the warehouse. It meant reorganizing our entire picking system for the day, but it was the only safe choice. Rosa, I need you to help coordinate the move, I told her. Marcus, we're going to need every dolly and cart in the building. Tommy, start printing new location labels for everything we're moving. It was organized chaos, but it was controlled chaos. By 10 a.m., we had 24 pallets of fireworks safely relocated and our new picking routes mapped out. The work was getting done, just not in the usual way. That's when Lori arrived. She walked into the warehouse to find boxes everywhere, my team moving inventory across aisles, and our normal workflow completely disrupted. Her face went red immediately. What is this mess? She demanded, her voice echoing across the warehouse floor. We have the biggest shipping day of the year tomorrow, and you've turned this place into a disaster zone. I tried to explain about the temperature issue, but she cut me off. I don't want to hear excuses, Jacqueline. Corporate is expecting our normal numbers, and you've sabotaged our entire operation. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? That's when I realized something important. Lori wasn't concerned about safety, or even about getting the work done efficiently. She was worried about how any deviation from normal procedures would reflect on her management. Lori, I can show you the temperature logs, I said calmly. If we hadn't moved this inventory, we could have been looking at a serious safety hazard. Safety hazard? She snapped. The only hazard I see is you making decisions without consulting me. You've created complete chaos, and now I have to explain to corporate why our productivity is down. Marcus had stopped his forklift nearby and was watching the conversation with obvious concern. Rosa had paused her labeling work. Across the warehouse, I could see the rest of my team glancing over, sensing the tension. The productivity isn't down, I said, keeping my voice level. We're just doing things differently today too. Differently? Lori's voice got higher. We have systems here, Jacqueline. We have procedures. You can't just decide to reorganize the entire warehouse because you're worried about temperature readings that are probably wrong anyway. That's when I knew this conversation wasn't going to end well. Lori wasn't interested in understanding the situation. She was embarrassed that something had happened in her warehouse that she didn't know about, and she was taking it out on me. But I tried one more time. "Let me show you the maintenance logs," I said. "The climate control has been struggling for 3 days. I documented everything. The contractor confirmed the problem when I called this morning." "I don't care about maintenance logs," she shouted, and now everyone in the warehouse had stopped working to listen. "I care about results. And the result is that you've created a disaster that I have to clean up." Tommy stepped forward from behind his computer terminal. "Ma'am, Jackie was just trying to keep everyone safe. The temperature readings were—" "Did I ask you?" Lori snapped at him. "This is between me and your supervisor." The word supervisor hit me wrong. I'd been running this operation for 3 years, but to Lori, I was just another employee who'd gotten out of line. "You know what?" she continued, her voice getting louder. "I'm tired of this. I'm tired of coming in to find problems that could have been avoided if people just followed instructions. Corporate is going to want answers about today's numbers, and I'm not taking the fall for someone else's poor judgment." Poor judgment? The words came out before I could stop them. Moving temperature-sensitive explosives away from a heating malfunction is poor judgment? "Don't you dare take that tone with me," Lori said, stepping closer. "You work for me, remember? And right now, you're not working out." The warehouse had gone completely silent. Even the background hum of equipment seemed quieter. I could feel 12 pairs of eyes watching this conversation, waiting to see what would happen next. "I think we should discuss this in private," I said quietly. "No, I think we should discuss this right here, right now, in front of the team that's going to have to fix the mess you've made," Lori said. "Because I want everyone to understand what happens when people think they can make executive decisions without consulting their manager." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "Lori, I've been making operational decisions like this for 3 years. That's what you hired me to do. I hired you to follow procedures, not to create chaos," she said. And clearly, that was a mistake. She turned to address the team directly, as if I weren't standing right there. "Everyone listen up," she announced. "Due to the disruption caused by today's unauthorized changes to our workflow, I'm relieving Jacqueline of her supervisory duties, effective immediately. Marcus, you'll report directly to me until we can sort this out." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. 3 years of perfect safety records, industry-leading efficiency, and total dedication to the job, and she was firing me in front of my team because I'd prevented a potential disaster. Marcus was the first to speak. "Ma'am, with all due respect, Jackie saved us from a real problem today. That temperature gauge wasn't lying." "The decision has been made," Lori said firmly. "Jacqueline, please collect your personal items and see me in my office before you leave." I looked around at the faces of my team, people I'd trained, people I'd worked alongside for years, people who knew exactly how much work I'd put into making this place run smoothly. They looked as shocked as I felt. "Rosa, can you make sure the inventory move gets finished properly?" I said quietly. "Don't worry about the inventory," Lori interrupted. "That's no longer your concern." But Rosa was already nodding. "We've got it, Jackie. We know what needs to be done." As I walked toward my small office to collect my things, I heard Tommy say, "This is wrong. This is completely wrong." "Get back to work," Lori told him sharply. But as I packed my few personal items, a coffee mug, some family photos, my safety manuals, I could hear the murmur of voices from the warehouse floor. My team was talking, and they didn't sound happy. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Lori's office, listening to her explain how restructuring was sometimes necessary for the good of the department. "I'm not saying you're a bad employee," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But you've shown that you're not ready for the kind of responsibility this position requires. Good supervisors don't create problems for their managers." I didn't trust myself to speak. I just wanted to get out of there with whatever dignity I had left. I'll have HR process your final paperwork, she continued. Given the circumstances, I think it's best if you don't return to the warehouse floor. What about my safety records? I asked. The new employee training materials I developed? The efficiency protocols? Lori waved her hand dismissively. I'm sure we'll manage just fine. That was it. 3 years of work dismissed in a sentence. I left through the front office, avoiding the warehouse entirely. I couldn't bear to see my team again, knowing I was abandoning them right before our biggest week of the year. But as I reached my car, I heard footsteps behind me. It was Rosa. Jackie, wait, she called. This is insane. We all know what really happened in there. It doesn't matter what really happened, I said, though my voice was shaking. Lori made her decision. Well, we're making ours too, Rosa said firmly. Marcus is already talking to the others. Nobody's comfortable with how this went down. Don't do anything stupid, I told her. You all need your jobs. Yeah, but we also need to work for people who respect us, she said. And after what we just saw, I'm not sure this is that place anymore. I drove home in a daze. 3 years of my life, dismissed in front of the team I'd worked so hard to build. All because I'd tried to prevent a safety disaster that could have hurt people or destroyed the building. But the worst part wasn't the firing itself. It was knowing that Lori would probably tell corporate some version of the story that made her look like the decisive manager who'd dealt with an insubordinate employee. Meanwhile, the real story, the temperature malfunction, the safety protocols, the efficient inventory move, would disappear into her version of events. I spent the rest of the day replaying the conversation, wondering if I could have handled it differently. Maybe if I'd called Lori first before making the move. Maybe if I'd been more diplomatic in explaining the situation. Maybe if I'd just ignored the temperature problem and hoped for the best. But deep down, I knew I'd made the right call. Those fireworks needed to be moved. My team needed to be safe. And if Lori couldn't see that, maybe Rosa was right, maybe this wasn't the right place for any of us. I just had no idea how right she was going to turn out to be. The first call came Friday morning, less than 24 hours after I'd been fired. It was Tommy, calling from his personal phone. Jackie, you need to know what happened after you left yesterday, he said, his voice tight with frustration. Half the team didn't come in today. What do you mean, didn't come in? Marcus called in sick. So did Rosa and 2 of the other guys. They're not actually sick, they're protesting. They don't want to work for Lori after what she did to you. I felt a knot forming in my stomach. Tommy, they can't do that. It's Christmas week. The company needs them. Yeah, well, the company should have thought about that before firing the person who actually knew how to run this place, he said. And it gets worse. Remember that temperature problem in Section C? The contractor couldn't fix it yesterday because Lori sent him away, said we didn't have budget for emergency repairs right now. She what? She told him the temperature readings were wrong and that we'd deal with it after the holidays. Jackie, it hit 82 degrees overnight. The overnight supervisor had to shut down the whole section and move everything anyway, except he didn't know your system for relocating inventory. It's a complete mess. My heart was racing. 82 degrees. We were approaching the danger zone, and Lori was pretending the problem didn't exist. Is everyone safe? I asked. For now. But Jackie, Lori has no idea how to manage the workflow you set up. She's trying to go back to the old system, but half the inventory is in the wrong place, and the people who know how to fix it aren't here. After I hung up with Tommy, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. Part of me felt vindicated. Lori was discovering that running a warehouse was harder than she'd thought. But mostly, I was worried about my team and the customers counting on their orders. The second call came Saturday morning. This time it was Marcus. Jackie, I'm done, he said without preamble. I can't work for that woman. Marcus, what happened? She brought in some consultant yesterday to assess our efficiency. Some guy in a suit who's never worked a day in a warehouse. He's telling us we need to reorganize everything, move the fireworks back to Section C because that's what the computer system says, never mind that the air conditioning is still broken. Did you explain about the temperature issue? I tried. But Lori told him I was just being difficult because I was upset about you getting fired. She said the previous supervisor had overcomplicated things and that we needed to get back to standard procedures. I closed my eyes. Standard procedures. As if safety protocols were just optional complications. There's more, Marcus continued. Rosa put in her 2 weeks' notice yesterday. So did Jim and Carlos. Lori's panicking because she's got 4 people short with the biggest shipping week of the year coming up. Did she try to talk them out of it? Marcus laughed bitterly. She tried to tell them they were being unprofessional. Rosa looked her right in the eye and said, "You want to see unprofessional? Unprofessional is firing the best supervisor this place has ever had because she tried to keep us safe." By Sunday, I'd gotten calls from 3 more team members. The picture they painted was not pretty. Lori had spent the weekend frantically trying to hire temporary workers, but temp agencies don't send people trained on hazardous materials handling. She'd called in managers from other departments, but they didn't understand our inventory system or safety protocols. Meanwhile, customer orders were backing up. The online system showed items as in stock, but they were scattered across the warehouse in locations that didn't match the computer. The new people kept trying to retrieve fireworks from Section C, where the temperature was still climbing. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash, Tommy told me. She keeps insisting everything is under control, but I've never seen the place this chaotic. And the worst part is, she's telling corporate that this is all fallout from the previous supervisor's poor systems. That stung. Even in the middle of a crisis she'd created, Lori was still finding ways to blame me. But Monday morning brought a call that changed everything. Jacqueline? This is Amanda Rodriguez from Pinnacle Logistics. I knew that name. Pinnacle was our biggest competitor in the region, and Amanda was their operations director. I'd met her a few times at industry conferences. Hi, Amanda. What can I do for you? Well, I hope you don't mind, but I got your number from Marcus Rivera. He said you might be looking for new opportunities. My heart started beating faster. Marcus called you? He did. Along with several other people from Coastal Wholesale who seem to think very highly of your work. They've told me some interesting stories about safety protocols and efficiency improvements you implemented there. I wasn't sure how to respond. It felt strange discussing my former job with a competitor. Listen, Amanda continued, I'm going to be direct. We've been looking for someone to head up our new regional distribution center. It's a significant step up from warehouse operations. You'd be managing 3 facilities and about 40 employees. The salary is $75,000, plus performance bonuses. $75,000. That was nearly double what I'd been making at Coastal. I'd love to meet with you this week if you're interested, she said. I have to be honest, the timing is partly driven by what I'm hearing about the situation at Coastal. Word travels fast in this industry, and people are talking. What kind of things are people saying? That a certain manager there fired the person who actually knew how to run the operation, right before Christmas week. And that the fallout is pretty spectacular. After hanging up with Amanda, I sat quietly for a long time. 3 years of being invisible to corporate, of having Lori take credit for my work, of believing that good performance would eventually be recognized. And now, less than a week after being fired, I had a competitor offering me a position with real authority and real respect. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed Coastal Wholesale's main number. Jacqueline, it's Lori. Her voice sounded strained. I think we need to talk. About what? About coming back. I think maybe we both said some things we didn't mean the other day. The department is going through some temporary challenges, and I could use your help getting things stabilized. Temporary challenges. As if the chaos was just an unfortunate coincidence. I'm not sure I understand, I said carefully. I thought you were clear that I wasn't ready for the responsibility. Well, obviously the situation has evolved, she said, sounding frustrated that I wasn't immediately jumping at the chance. Look, I know you're probably upset about how things ended, but we're adults here. We can work past this. What exactly are you offering, Lori? Your old position back, of course. Same responsibilities, same pay. And I'm willing to overlook the disruption your departure caused if you can start tomorrow. The disruption my departure caused. Even when she was asking me to come back, she couldn't resist making it sound like I was somehow responsible for the problems. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I don't think that's going to work. What do you mean? Jacqueline, be reasonable. You need this job. Did I? 2 days ago, maybe. But now I was looking at an opportunity that would actually value my expertise. I've got another opportunity I'm exploring, I told her. There was silence on the other end. Then, another opportunity? Jacqueline, you can't just abandon the team when they need you. That's not the kind of person I thought you were. The team. Now she was concerned about the team she'd humiliated me in front of. The team needed me last Wednesday when I was trying to prevent a safety disaster, I said. You made it clear then that my judgment wasn't welcome. That was different. That was a misunderstanding. No, Lori, that was you deciding that your image was more important than doing the right thing. And now that you're facing the consequences, you want me to fix the problems you created. I'm trying to give you your job back, she said, her voice rising. Do you have any idea how generous that is after the way you've handled this situation? Generous. She thought she was being generous by offering to undo her own mistake. Here's what I think happened, I said, feeling calmer than I had in days. You fired me because you were embarrassed that I'd made a decision without consulting you first. You thought you could manage the warehouse yourself, or at least fake it long enough to hire someone more compliant. But now you're discovering that the work I did was more complicated than you realized, and your department is falling apart. That's not. And instead of admitting that you made a mistake, you're trying to frame this as me doing you a favor by coming back. But the truth is, you need me a lot more than I need you. The silence stretched out for nearly 30 seconds. Fine, she said finally. What do you want? A raise? I might be able to get you an extra $1 an hour. An extra $1 an hour. After 3 years of running her department and preventing what could have been a major disaster. What I want, I said, is to work for someone who respects my expertise and doesn't throw me under the bus when things get complicated. And I don't think that's something you can offer. You're making a huge mistake, she said, her voice getting hostile again. You think you can just walk away from this job and find something better? This industry is smaller than you think, Jacqueline. Word gets around about employees who cause problems. You're right, I said. Word does get around. But I think you might be surprised about what people are saying. I hung up before she could respond. Wednesday morning, I met with Amanda Rodriguez at Pinnacle Logistics. Their offices were in a modern building across town, with floor-to-ceiling windows and an actual conference room instead of a converted storage closet. Amanda was everything Lori wasn't: direct, knowledgeable about actual warehouse operations, and genuinely interested in my ideas about safety and efficiency. Your former colleagues have been very complimentary about your work, she said as we sat down. Marcus Rivera in particular had some interesting things to say about your inventory management system. Marcus called you? Yesterday. Along with Rosa Martinez and Tommy Chin. They all applied for positions here. She smiled. It's not often we get a whole team of experienced workers applying at once. They said they'd be interested in working with you again. My heart jumped. My team, well, my former team, was willing to follow me to a new company. I should be honest with you, Amanda continued. I've been hearing rumors about what's happening at Coastal this week. Equipment failures, missed shipments, customer complaints. Is that related to your departure? I chose my words carefully. I think Coastal is discovering that warehouse operations are more complex than they realized. She nodded. Marcus mentioned something about a climate control issue that wasn't handled properly. Said it could have been a serious safety problem. Safety was always my top priority, I said. Sometimes that meant making decisions quickly, even if they disrupted normal workflow. Good. That's exactly the kind of judgment we need in this position. She leaned forward. Let me tell you about what we're building here. We're opening a new 100,000 square foot distribution center next month. It's going to handle specialized inventory, electronics, chemicals, seasonal items like fireworks. We need someone who understands the complexity of managing different types of materials safely and efficiently. It sounded like everything I'd been trying to build at Coastal, but with actual support from management. The position reports directly to me, she continued, but you'd have full authority over daily operations, staffing, and safety protocols. We believe in hiring experts and then trusting them to do their jobs. Trusting them to do their jobs. What a concept. I'm interested, I said. Excellent. I can have an offer letter ready by Friday. Oh, and one more thing, if any of your former colleagues are seriously interested in joining us, I'd love to talk to them. Good teams are hard to find. When I got home, I had 6 missed calls from Coastal Wholesale's main number and 3 voicemails from Lori. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I called Marcus. How serious were you about applying at Pinnacle? I asked. Dead serious. Rosa's already filled out the paperwork. So have Jim and Carlos. Tommy's thinking about it. What about the others? The ones who stayed? They're not happy, Jackie. Lori brought in this new supervisor, some guy from corporate who's never worked a warehouse floor. He's trying to implement all these new procedures that don't make any sense. Yesterday he had them stacking fireworks 8 feet high in Section C. 8 feet? That's completely against every safety protocol you ever taught us, yeah. Rosa tried to explain about sprinkler coverage, and he told her to mind her own business. That's when she decided she was definitely done. Is everyone safe at least? For now. But Jackie, the place is falling apart. They missed half their shipments yesterday because nobody knows where anything is. The computer says items are in Section C, but they're actually scattered all over the warehouse from when you moved them. And Lori keeps screaming at people to work faster instead of actually fixing the problems. Friday morning, I signed my offer letter with Pinnacle Logistics. $75,000 a year, full benefits, and the title of Regional Distribution Manager. More importantly, I'd be working for people who understood that good warehouse management required expertise, not just enthusiasm. That afternoon, Marcus called with an update from Coastal. You're not going to believe this, he said. The fire marshal showed up this morning for a surprise inspection. My blood went cold. What happened? Well, let's see. He found fireworks stacked above the sprinkler line. He found temperature-sensitive materials stored next to a heating unit that's been malfunctioning for a week. He found blocked emergency exits and safety equipment that hadn't been inspected in months. Oh no. Oh, it gets better. He shut down the entire fireworks section until they can prove compliance with fire safety regulations. Right before Christmas week, with thousands of dollars in New Year's inventory sitting there. I felt sick to my stomach, but not surprised. This was exactly what I'd been trying to prevent. Lori tried to tell him that the previous supervisor had left the safety protocols in disarray, Marcus continued, but the fire marshal wasn't buying it. He said it was clear that whoever had been maintaining safety compliance was no longer there, and that current management didn't understand the regulations. What happens now? They have to hire a certified safety consultant to review everything and implement new protocols. The consultant says it'll take at least 2 weeks, assuming they can fix all the equipment problems. Lori's been on the phone with corporate all day, trying to explain how this isn't her fault. That evening, Lori called me one more time. Jacqueline, I need to ask you a favor, she said, her voice completely different from our previous conversations. Gone was the defensive hostility. She sounded exhausted. What kind of favor? The fire marshal shut down our fireworks section today. We need someone who understands the safety regulations to help us get back into compliance. Someone who knows our systems. Our systems. The systems she'd dismissed as overcomplicated just a week ago. I see. Look, I know things didn't end well between us. I know you're probably angry about how everything happened. But we're talking about the whole department here. People's jobs. Customer relationships we'd built for years. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was quieter. I made a mistake, okay? I should have listened to you about the temperature problem. I should have trusted your judgment. You were right, and I was wrong. It was the first time she'd ever admitted to being wrong about anything. I appreciate you saying that, I said. So will you help us? I know it's a lot to ask after everything that happened, but you're the only one who knows these systems well enough to get us back up and running quickly. I can't do that, Lori. Why not? If it's about money, I'm sure we can work something out. A consulting fee, or maybe we could discuss bringing you back permanently with a significant raise. It's not about money. Then what? I said I was sorry. What more do you want? I thought about that question for a moment. What did I want? I want to work somewhere that values safety over productivity. I want to work for people who trust my expertise instead of undermining it. I want to be recognized for the work I do instead of watching someone else take credit. You could have all of that here. Things would be different now. Would they? Or would they be different until the next crisis, when you decide I'm being overcomplicated again? She didn't answer immediately. I've already accepted another position, I told her. With people who appreciated my work before they needed me to fix their problems. Another position? Where? Pinnacle Logistics. I start Monday. The silence that followed was long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. Pinnacle, she said finally. You went to our competitor. I went to people who offered me respect and real responsibility. Do you have any idea what this does to us? You and half our team going to work for Pinnacle right before Christmas? I think you should have considered that before you fired me for doing my job. This is vindictive, Jacqueline. This is you trying to hurt the company because you're angry about a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Even now, she couldn't admit what had really happened. No, Lori, this is me choosing to work where my skills are valued. If that hurts Coastal, maybe you should think about why so many good employees felt they had to leave to find respect. After I hung up, I sat in my living room thinking about the past week. 7 days ago, I'd been invisible, doing crucial work that nobody appreciated, taking responsibility that nobody acknowledged.